the way here to this beautiful room, the Stucksaal in the Poppelsdorfer Schloss, to hear our project presentation. The aim of this project presentation is to give you an insight about what we in the next 4.5 years have planned and what we want to do, and this should provide you in an early stage of our project information that give you an entry point to come up to us and to start like a discussion process, academic discussion process, or find ways of how we can collaborate. This project presentation is part of a kick-off workshop that we have conducted, or we're still conducting this week, and I'm very happy that our project partners from Thailand, sitting in the back, came all the way around from Thailand here, and were able to discuss with us our project and give valuable insights in order to make our project better. Yeah, my name is Patrick Sakdaporek. I'm head of the research group, which has the title Building Resilience through Translocality, Climate Change, Migration and Social Resilience in Rural Thailand. Before I start with the more academic stuff, I'd like to give you a brief overview of the setting of the project. This project is funded by the German Ministry for Education and Research under the Research Framework for Sustainable Development, and it's funded under the call Nachwuchsgruppen Globale Wandel. It is funded for 4 years, probably for 5 years, if we managed to do our work good, and we started our work in October last year. And I just want to mention that this Nachwuchsgruppen Globale Wandel, this Nachwuchsgruppen concept is a great concept for researchers in my situation, early and mid-term, early and mid-career academics, which this program allows people like me to conduct our research independently, to get in an early stage experience of leading a research group and to make progress in the scientific field. So it's a great thing, and I hope that many more other researchers will get the opportunity to do this kind of thing. So we are hosted by the Department of Geography, University of Bonn, and it's a great pleasure for me to be able to do this research here, and it's a great scientific environment for this research. We are like a junior research group, a Nachwuchsgruppe. Besides me, there are 5 PhD students who will work on the topic that are of our concern in the next few years. So we will hear something from them shortly. In terms of our collaborators, we work with different academic partners. We work with different academic partners in Thailand. We have a colleague from the University of Chiang Mai, Ajahn Panomsak, here, who is present here during this kick-off week. And we have Ajahn Seksan from the Kongan University. Kuntiranong from the Mahidol University. Ajahn Supagon from the Start C Center, also from Germany. We have different, we are in close exchange with the colleagues from UHS and from DEA, and we are collaborating with the colleague from IMIT in Australia and the colleague at the National University of Singapore. So on the practice side, in Thailand, we have worked closely with the Rakthai Foundation, which is part of CARE International, it's CARE Thailand. And here I'm very glad that Kuntasani is also here during this week. To force us to think how to make our research relevant for the practice. In Thailand, we have links to the IOM Bangkok office. Yeah, that's it about the setting and the structure. So the aim is to give you an overview of what we will do. We haven't done yet, but what we will do. And that's why I have structured the presentation the following way. I will answer the following questions. Where is the debate? The debate that is of our concern, debate about the relationship between environment and migration. What is our position in this debate? What is our objective? Where do we do our research? What is our approach? How is our project structured? What are our methods? And is this all only for the show? So let me start directly with the first question, where's the debate? So the academic debate that we want to link our research to is the debate about the relationship between migration and environment, the migration-environment nexus. And when you look at the discussion about the relationship between migration and environment, most discussions evolve around concepts like climate or environmental refugees, climate or environmental migrants. So in this discussion, the focus is very much on the question how environmental change, climate change, has an impact on migration decision or has an impact on migration flows. Within the academic sphere, there is like a controversial discussion between the so-called maximalists, that are scholars who are saying that there is a quite direct relation between environmental change and human mobility, and that many people will be forced to leave their traditional habitat in future because of climate change. On the other hand, there are the minimalists who are saying that concepts like climate or environmental refugees, climate or environmental migrants doesn't have any like academic legitimacy at all because it doesn't make sense. Another observation that you can make when you look at this debate on migration and environment is that besides us scientists, there are many other actors that are interested in this issue. So there are, I think, as many as 7 UN organizations that are somehow concerned about this environmental migrants, powerful and resourceful organizations such as the Asian Development Bank are publishing on the issue, but also on the national level, the Bundesamt für Migration und Flüchtlinge has recently published a paper on climate migrants, and diverse organizations from the NGO field, like Christian Aid, Greenpeace, but many more also are concerned about this issue. This issue is highly politicized, and the issue is very much driven by environmental and security discourses. Migration in this discourse is very often viewed in negative terms, as maladaptation, as a matter of last resort. And in this discussion, it's very often very simplistic and deterministic view on how the relation between migration and environment is. So while many actors are still debating who are environmental migrants, where they're coming from, how many are they, or if there are any environmental migrants at all, we want to have a look at this issue from another angle, from another perspective. So we start our consideration from the observation that migration, regardless of any climate projection, any climate scenarios, is a major driver of global change already. It's reality today that people are migrating, going somewhere else. UNDP is estimating the number of internal migrants to be 740 million, and international migrants to be 214 million. So the second observation that we make is that this migration and the feedback processes that are linked to this migration has an impact on the place of origin of migrants already. It has an impact on the way people cope and adapt with environmental risks, and it has an impact on the environment directly as well in terms of land use change, changing agricultural practices. And we observe that these feedback effects have very long been a neglected issue for research, but also for policy and practice. And in the last few years, there are more and more researchers that are tackling the issue, including our research crew. So the objective of our project is, one, to understand the social and ecological changes induced by feedback processes of migration. And we will particularly focus on the effects on social resilience to environmental risk in the place of origin of migrants. Social resilience in terms of the capacities of social actors to cope and adapt to threats and to be able to transform their livelihood in a way to be better adapted for future uncertainties. So while there's very much a big focus on this question, how environmental risk leads to migration flows, we don't take this perspective for our research, but asking when people are migrating, and very often they have people back home and they have a relation back home, like they're sending money or sending ideas or what this feedback affects, what are the effects of these feedback processes in terms of dealing with environmental risks. So, where do we carry out our research? We carry out our research in Thailand. We have noticed that all our academic partners from abroad are from Thailand, and that's the focus of our research. Thailand is an upper middle income country in the heart of the Southeast Asian Peninsula. Even though it's an upper middle income country, still 40% of the workforce is working in the agricultural sector. And this agricultural sector is highly susceptible for environmental risk, as it's mostly rain-fed. So, the rural area in Thailand is highly connected and embedded in translocal networks. People are migrating, moving back, having relations to people in other areas. And we will start our research by choosing research sites in rural areas of Thailand, in 4 sub-districts in Thailand, and we will select them according to different risk exposure characteristics, to different rural livelihood system characteristics, and through different embeddedness in the migration network. We are still in the process of selecting the research sites and had intensive discussions in the morning about where to go. We will, apart from looking at the place of origin of migrants, we will conduct research in the place of destination of migrants. So we will trace internal migrants to the urban and industrial centers in Thailand, and we'll look at how international migrants from Thailand are embedded in countries such as Singapore or Germany. But why we are doing this, why we are looking at the destination areas of migration, we are doing this because our research project has a very particular perspective. Our approach is the Translocality approach. Many of you might not have heard about Translocality. That's I prepared this figure to explain what I mean by Translocality. So at a certain place, point in time, you have a household or a community which is living in a certain place. They have a certain relation to the environment and have a certain way to deal with environmental risks. At a certain point in time, a member of the community, the household, might decide to migrate to somewhere. This decision might be linked to environmental factors or not. And through this migration, a network between the place of origin and the place of destination of migrants are produced, and through this network, people, identities, resources, and information are transferred. This transformation, this transfer of resources, economic and non-economic resources, lead to a transformation of the place of origin of migrants, as well as the place of destination of migrants at the same time. So the relation to the environment changed, the way people deal with environmental risks changed. And the setting of social interaction, which was before more or less the place where people live, expands to include the places of origin as well as the place of destination of migrants at the same time. So when we want to understand social resilience against environmental risks in a certain place, we need to understand, of course, the conditions that are in place here, but we need to understand how migrants are embedded in this place of destination, as well as we need to understand how this translocal space, how this connectedness is functioning, and which mechanisms are there to reproduce this connection. So basically this is the framework for our research project, and we have structured the research project in the following way. We have 5 PhD students working in 4 sub-projects, and I would like to hand over the word to Mr. Slopan Narushakison, who will look at the vulnerability and resilience to climatic risks.
Introduce to my sub-project. My sub-project is focused on livelihood, rural livelihood, because rural livelihood is very important in Thailand. People in Thailand also still rely on the agriculture activity, especially for when they have some kind of crisis, when they migrate out from their community and during that time they have a crisis or trouble, they actually return to their home country as a fallback sector to work in agriculture again. And another one is about my project focus on vulnerability of multiple stressors. It means for long-term impact from the environmental change or climate change. My research object is about to identify factors contribute to vulnerability. For example, about development, policy pressure, and socio-economic pressure that also diving to the community resilience and also the impact from climate change as well. And I would like to understand the role of migration in the rural livelihood system and exploring the mechanism of resilient transformation through the translocality. My research method is just try to use mixed method, either for qualitative and quantitative analysis. I also try to combine participatory techniques to collect data. For example, like using the CVK tool that developed by Laptai Foundation and Care International to collect data about seasonal calendar, hazard map, and also try to use the scenario-based planning for future term, looking different future options of the community to cope with the change in the future. And for my contribution to the overall project, to understanding the vulnerability in the place of living of migrants, about who vulnerable and why and what are those consequences, and try to understanding the role of environmental risk and migration in rural livelihood system. So I would like to hand on to my colleague Louisa for Translocality, that she will work either in place of origin and destination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supan. So my name is Louisa, and I will be responsible for the sub-project social practice of Translocality. And as you might guess from the picture, I will rather be concerned with people, more specifically with migrants. And to be very specific, I will focus my work on internal migrants in Thailand and their social practices. So what does it mean to deal or to analyze social practices? Well, for my research, it means the process of linking places of origin and places of destination with each other will be the subject matter, and for that purpose I will take an actor or practice based point of view. So thereby I want to analyze migrants' practices, their daily routines and interaction in their places of destination as well as origin, and how this leads to their multi-sited situativeness, meaning their embeddedness at several places at the same time. And moreover, what I want to understand is how those linkages that I mentioned before between destination and home area are produced and reproduced. And only to give you an example, I mean, you might be aware, but those practices include, for example, basic communication between destination and home areas, between migrants and non-migrants, and also, for example, the ideas or knowledge that is transmitted by such communication back home to the sending areas. So yeah, very obviously this approach requires a multi-sited empirical research. So I will follow the migrants and do mainly qualitative research in both sending and home areas, sending and places of destination. And I will, so far I plan to do in-depth interviews and participant observation. So yeah, at the end of the day, I want to contribute to the overall Translocal project, TransRe project, by better understanding the connectedness of internal migrants. Why do they keep up connections to their home areas, and how do they do it, and for what? And yeah, also what I'd like to contribute to the entire project is connecting the dots between translocality or internal migrants being embedded at different places at the same time, and their influence on social resilience or resilience to environmental risks in their sending areas. But very obviously, internal migration, even though it's very important, is not the only important type of migration in order to understand the translocality resilience nexus. But Simon will look into international migration, and I will hand over to him now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Louisa. And as you said, international migration is also important in Thailand. On the one hand, it's on a more general level, it's a very important economic factor in Thailand. On the more individual or household level, it's a very important mean to deal with insecurities or difficult situations in general. So with my sub-project, I will focus on transnational and international migration. And in a similar way like Louisa, I will take a closer look on the practices of migrants, of international migrants, and their feedback processes, such as the remittances to the areas of origin. What is pretty important in this regard, I think, is that migration studies very often focus on remittances in the sense that they consider the economic part of it. Okay, migrants send money back home, that is very important, of course. But what is part of our project together is also the question of social remittances, because obviously money is not the only thing which is transferred from one place to another. So the thing is, we want to understand translocality, so we want to understand how the people are embedded and interconnected at different places. Yeah, so I will do this by comparing two different migration systems. On the one hand, the migration of labor workers, labor migration to Singapore, which is one of the most important destinations for labor migration from Thailand. And on migration to Germany, which is one of the most important destination places for long-term migration. And when we take a look at the number of Thai people living in Germany, more than 86% are women, so it's a very female-dominated, it's mainly marriage migration. In comparison to that, the migration to Singapore is a very male-dominated migration and rather short-term or mid-term migration. So in my sub-project, I will try to figure out in how far these different migration systems will produce different feedback processes, and what does this mean for the places of origin. So the objective of my sub-project is to understand the translocal social practices and interconnectedness of migrants that are rooted in different areas in multiple localities, and the effect on social resilience. And Of course, I will, in a similar way, work like Louisa with the multi-site ethnography, which is a method that is adapted to the very dynamic nature of migration. So somehow we will start here in the places of origin and understand the situation. We will go to the destination places, try to understand the conditions the migrants experience at the destination places, and by this discovering the embeddedness and also all these connections and translocal practices that are produced through migration. And we will do this with qualitative research. In my case, I think semi-structured interviews and also narrative interviews might be very interesting to get a better insight into migration history, migration trajectories, but also participatory rural appraisal, such as migration mapping or Venn diagrams can picture in a very nice way how people are connected. And the third thing is that I also want to try to work with visual methods. My dream would be to produce a participatory documentary to give cameras within this migration process, and then to get another insight also to some areas which a researcher might not get into. So my contribution to the whole project is a comparative view on different transnational migration systems. In a similar way like Louisa, it's actor-oriented, and the goal is to generate a better understanding of these translocal practices and connectedness. And that actually leads me to the next sub-project, which is also taking into account interconnectedness and also embeddedness, but on a more systemic and structural level. So I'll hand over to Till Rockenbauer, who will focus on social networks.
Thank you, Simon, for introducing to my sub-project, which is indeed going to focus on something what is in between the different sub-projects we have heard before. I'm going to focus on social networks and their role for environmental risk, the recipients of corporate environmental risk in rural Thailand. So by social networks, everybody's talking about networks, but what do I mean when I talk about networks? Just to give you a hint, that could be, for example, migration networks that facilitate the flow of people, the migration of people, but it also could be support networks in times of crisis where households can assess physical assets or financial assets in order to cope with environmental risks, or even innovation networks. And I want to look on these networks from a structural perspective that implies that I want to really get the relations between actors and to analyze the structure that arises from the interaction between these actors. So I want to study the flows, types and distribution of flows, but not only this, I want to study the structure of these flows and the dynamics within social networks. And this then will help me to understand how the embeddedness of a particular actor affects the resilience. On a first level, I want to know about the resilience of households, how the embeddedness in social networks affects the resilience of households. But then, in a third step, I would like to know how this in the end affects the resilience of the whole rural community. How will I do this? I will apply methods from the broad toolkit of social network analysis that has developed within sociology, but have been applied to a wide range of disciplines. These methods are mostly quantitative, but I also will try to integrate some qualitative aspects. I will do exploration of existing data sets we already have from Thailand. I will conduct interviews, semi-standardized interviews, but also participatory forms of network mapping with rural communities and households. In particular, I will focus on the aspect of resource use management. So, to sum up, the contribution of my project is somehow an integration between the more actor-based approaches we heard about and a more system-based approach to resilience. And this kind of meta-level analysis, the network perspective, will hopefully help us to upscale research results. And yeah, by the way, I try to identify methods that might be suitable for practitioners. For example, in policy stakeholder analysis, social network analysis is a tool that can be applied and can contribute fruitful insights. This leads me directly to my colleague Kaylee, which will present our next subject.
As this diagram shows you, I'm interested in that little dotted line surrounding this framework, which is about the context and environment that these translocal connections can be made. What does that mean? I'm going to focus on the governance processes at the interface between climate change adaptation and migration, and more broadly the policymakers and stakeholders on multiple levels that are involved with that. The objective ultimately is to understand the climate migration policy environment and its influence on social resilience. And hopefully this will guide policy dialogue and can suggest how migration can be incorporated in mainstreamed into climate change policies. This will be done primarily through a multi-level policy and stakeholder analysis. There will be an emphasis on climate change adaptation policies, and this is usually at the local community level. But as Translocality shows us, these connections, these networks extend above and beyond the local, and so that allows us to also look at policy beyond borders, like migration policies. It's obviously very multi-level and complex, and we'll see how it goes as we research. But hopefully, at the end, we will have an understanding of the impact of higher-level processes on local level and translocal resilience. So with that, I'll throw it back to Patrick for a more generalized overview and other facets of her project.
Thank you very much. We hope that through these different sub-projects and through the view on the resilience in the context of translocality from these different perspectives will provide us with a comprehensive understanding of how migration and translocality influence social resilience in the place of origin of migrants. Through this comprehensive understanding, we hope, and we will also do it, to transfer our knowledge into practice. So within the framework of the project, we have different from knowledge to action modules. One will be a pilot project for support resilience building to translocality. The lead within the sub-project will be at the Raktai Foundation in Thailand. We will design collaboratively this pilot project and implement it within the time frame of the project. The idea is, the observation is that a lot of times community climate change adaptation projects and programs neglect the fact that migration is like a major driving force also in rural areas, and we want to find ways how to consider this translocal resource, this migration resource, when we think about community climate change adaptation. A second sub-project will be the development of a resilience building toolkit for adaptation policymakers and practitioners. Here the lead will be with a colleague from RMIT in Australia who is experienced in developing a toolkit within the Australian context and other contexts in Southeast Asia. And the aim is to, from the insights we have from the research and from the implementation of the pilot project and the collaboration with the Raktai Foundation, to systematize that knowledge to guide future policy making in order to enable people to consider translocal resources when they think about climate change adaptation. Furthermore, of course, we are like an academic research project, and we have to publish scientifically in high-impact high-impact journals. That is like our täglich Brot. But besides this, presenting the results in the academic sphere, we want to reach a broader target group. That's why we want to try to find out the potential of using social media to communicate different activities, but also different views, different research results. So we have a Facebook site already, you can visit it and like us. And we will implement a blog soon where we can publish opinions we have about certain topics and start like a discussion process in a more rapid way than that is possible in the context of scientific publications, which sometimes takes 2 years until it's out there in the public. Besides that, we will conduct different events. We want to have also policy events where we get into dialogue with policymakers and practitioners. And we will have a capacity building events in Thailand in terms of short courses where postgraduate students will be taught by us with concerned topics that relate to our project. Key message of our project is that we need to reframe the migration-environment-nexus. We need to move away from simplistic, alarmistic, and deterministic understanding of this relation. We need to look at the potential of migration for climate change adaptation, things that has been done already in when it comes to the migration development nexus. And we want, and this is doing a research group, and we want to try things out, we want to try to find ways to bridge the science practice gap, and I hope that we will be successful. With this, I close this brief presentation of our research project, and I'd like to open the floor to further discussion. And I'm particularly happy that there are among you some people from the practice field, and I want to start also the kind of discussion process and find ways how to make our research relevant for policymakers. And of course, I'm very happy to also discuss about scientific problems and challenges that we will face within the framework of this project.